Hello, a little introduction for this video. A couple of things I want to mention first of all. So number one, the quality isn't great because I had to use a GoPro. Sorry about that. I tried and fiddled around a bit, but I couldn't get the Ninja to actually record the screen directly, so it might be a bit fuzzy in places, but I tried to make it usable. Second thing is, just to stop you, if you've got a laptop that you're trying to get access to that's using BitLocker or DeskLock or some other kind of more robust security system, then this isn't going to help you. This is mainly designed for laptops that you've acquired either from, well, in a lot of the ones I see, it's from bereavement, or it's from the fact that you've gone up in the loft and found that old laptop and there's a password on it and you don't know what it is, or your friend has forgotten it. Yeah, if you've forgotten the password, then this video will be the easiest, I'm not saying it's easy, but the easiest way to get it back. The only thing you need is a bootable USB stick, which I mentioned. That, I think, is the only potential problem. If you can't get your machine to boot from the USB stick, leave a comment and I'll try and fix it for you. But as a general rule, this will be the easiest thing you can do without having, a whole cupboard full of IT kit or employing an IT ninja to do it for you. If you're finding that it's a bit slow paced and it's a bit boring and you don't like the bit because it's obvious, then that bit isn't for you. So fast forward it. I've tried to make it to cover everything in it so that if you've got absolutely no idea how to bypass the password, then you can still do it simply by copying it. With that in mind, I do recommend that you have a little look down there and read the description, because I've been pretty thorough in the description too. So hopefully the whole thing will mean that it works. And if you did find it useful and helpful, then please like and subscribe, because it helps me. So anyway, let's get on with the video. So let's get access to this machine then. So there are different ways of doing this, but as a bare minimum, and if you're not particularly, if you haven't got a massive toolbox full of IT equipment, then this is going to be the easiest and the only way that you can do it without getting a bit ninja about things. But as a bare minimum, you will need a Windows 10 setup stick. And you make one of those via a little program that you download from Microsoft. And you need an 8 gig or larger stick, and then it creates it for you. And it's bootable, and it's used for reinstalling Windows, but we're going to use it to get access to this machine. So you put that into the USB port like that. Now, when I press enter on this, obviously it asks for a password. Now, the temptation is to use sort of shift restart to try and get into the recovery options for the installed versions of Windows that's on the actual laptop itself. But what you'll find is that whenever you try and do anything, it asks for a password for an account that's got the credentials to do that. So that isn't going to work. But we do need to be able to reboot the machine so that it uses the USB stick rather than the internal drive. And that varies between manufacturer, that varies between devices. So this machine is an Acer, for example, and it's an old one. If I restart the machine and tap F12 on this machine, then it actually puts up a boot menu and I can choose the stick. Sometimes it's F8, sometimes it's F9, sometimes you have to use F2, sometimes you have to use the recovery options on the machine because of the way the BIOS is configured. It won't allow legacy boot. It all gets very complicated and annoying. So here's a nice simple way of doing it. You've made your USB stick, you put it in, you go to the power button there and you click it and it brings up restart there. I'm going to press and hold shift and then I'm going to tap restart. And this is how you get into the recovery options generally. It's just that for our purposes, those recovery options don't help us because anything we want to do requires the password that we don't know. But we're still going to use that as part of the next stage of the process. So do a shift restart. It takes a bit of time. I will trim it down because this is an old machine. So it's finally here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do use a device next, which is that one there. And you notice that the Kingston drive is listed as part of that. So I'll just tap on that. And what it will do now is it will restart and boot from the USB stick. You can tell it's working because it always takes a bit longer to boot. Even if you've got a very old hard drive in it, like this one has, it will still take longer for it to show the Windows logo than normal. So even though at the moment it doesn't appear to be doing anything, there's the Windows logo, so now you know it is. So there's always a bit of anxiety while it does that. But that obviously is working now, so we'll just let it continue to boot. And that's the Windows setup starting. So I'm going to click next on the first screen on that. And then instead of, I'm not going to click install now, I'm going to click repair your computer down the bottom there. And then I'm going to use troubleshoot. And you can see there is an option to use the command prompt, which I'm going to click on. And here's the command prompt. Now at the moment, if I just move that down so you can see it better, I will put it on screen anyway so you get a bit of clearer view. So now we need to find the Windows folder. Now just as a little tip, if I type in WMIC and then logical disk and then get and then add the word caption, what that will do is it will list all the available drives that are set up as logical disks, and you can see there's a C, D, E, F, G. Now X is the USB stick, which is where we are at the moment because we booted from it. Now normally the Windows folder is in C, but I wanted to do that for you because on this particular one, if I go to C, so I type in C:, and then I do a directory listing with dir, it's not actually where Windows is. That's the OEM recovery partition. So we still want to find Windows, don't we? So what I'm going to do now is I'll clear the screen with CLS, and you can see we're back up at the top. I'm going to type in D, and then I'm going to do a dir. And what we find is that that one, that is where Windows is. So it's not on C, it's on D. And so now we're there, I'm going to type the following command. I'm going to type move Windows /system32 /utilman.exe, and I'm going to move that to C /. So that has moved a file called utilman from the Windows folder where, you know, System32 to the C drive. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to type the command copy Windows /system32 /. This is where it gets a little bit cunning, because I'm going to do cmd.exe, and I'm going to change the name of that. I'm going to copy it Windows /system32 /utilman.exe. So what that will do is it will take the command prompt from System32 and copy it to System32, but rename it utilman. So I've moved utilman and I've moved command into there, or copied command into there and given it the same name. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to unplug my disk like that. So I've disconnected the USB stick. I'm going to type WPE util, and I'm going to add the word reboot. And what that will do is that will rebuild the computer. So the computer is now rebooting, and away we go again. And we're back on the main screen now. So if I then just press enter, we'll see what happens. Finally got the login screen, and so I'm just going to tap ease of access now in the bottom left hand corner. In Windows 10 it's in the right hand corner, but I'm going to just tap ease of access and it will launch. Instead of launching ease of access, it actually launches the command prompt, which is what we want. So now that's there, I'm going to type net user administrator /active : and then the word yes. And we'll see what that happens when I type that in. It's having a bit of a chug about things. So net user administrator active yes. It says the command completed successfully. So what I've done there, administrator account is a hidden account that's not enabled by default. So we've just turned it on. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to type exit from that. And then if we restart it, we'll see what happens now. So I'm going to restart it again after typing that command in. And it's restarted. So on this particular one, I just pressed that back arrow and you can see administrator is an account there, which wasn't there before. So if I click on that, let's see what happens. On Windows 10 it's slightly different, but the account should be visible, usually by clicking on the bottom left hand corner. But so this technique actually works. I deliberately chose a Windows 8 machine because so that it wouldn't be Windows 10. So this actual technique works for old operating systems and new ones. So if you do find a computer in the loft and you've forgotten the password for it, this is how you get into it. Now it doesn't work if the system is encrypted with Desktop or the Microsoft flavor of drive encryption. It doesn't work with that. You can't change the password with that. It won't let you do it. So if you are serious about your data, don't worry, because this isn't going to work. People aren't going to get your data. With standard accounts and with standard systems that don't use BitLocker or don't use Desktop or that kind of thing, then this will work. So if you do forget your password, you can recover the data on there without, handing it over to an IT guy like me. This is the simplest way of doing it. So there are other ways of doing it, which I'll discuss once I've sort of proven that it worked. We have to wait for the administrator account to actually set itself up, because on first time run it has to create the profile folders. So we'll leave that to it. You can tell that this machine is pretty old and sluggish anyway. I've cut quite a lot of the grinding out of it. And you can probably tell by the way it jumps around, or rather by the way my reflection jumps around. So and finally we're signed in. Windows Update has a problem. Of course it does. So I'm going to close that. Now what we're after here is the data, isn't it? So we're using the administrator account. So if I open up File Explorer, so we want this PC. So we've got the C drive, Acer. We'll just open that up, and then we go into users, and then we go into the name of the user, which I've masked out, and we can look at downloads as a good example, maybe. It's really chugging. Look at downloads. Yeah, so there's all the data. I've obviously blanked it out so you can't see it. But yeah, what can I show that shows that it's worked? Well, let's have a little look at, I don't know, favourites maybe. There's the Ace of Fate. Not very helpful, is it? But it's worked. I just can't show you the details because obviously it's someone's documents, isn't it? So there's a whole load of stuff there. So that's how you get access to the documents. I'll just run through essentially what you do. Basically, you're booting from USB stick and you're changing it so that when you click for accessibility options, it opens the command prompt, and then you use the command prompt there because it's got admin privileges, but it doesn't need a password to use, to activate the local administrator account, which you then sign in as, and then you can use that account because that's unstoppable. It even bypasses UAC. You can then use that account to get access to the data. Now what you might find is that when you click on the data, it says you haven't got access to this, you're not allowed to, or it might do that. The point is you just say whatever, and then it will change the permissions and let you do it. So I hope that was helpful. Any questions, any comments, stick them in the comments. Obviously the trick is to be able to make a USB stick. You have to be able to make a USB stick. That's as easy as it, you know, that's the bare minimum. If you can't do that, then you're going to have to give it to someone to do it for you, aren't you? So you make a USB stick, then getting it to boot, you might have a few problems with that, but hopefully the method I've shown you should be relatively foolproof, and it should boot from the USB stick. And once it does that, it's the same for everyone. So making the stick, the one thing that will vary is getting it to boot. This is an Acer, so F12 will do it on this one. That's something you can Google. So once you've got it to boot, the procedure should work, and it should work for you. Remember, this is Windows 8, an older version of Windows, so it works on that. Works on Windows 10, except the accessibility options on the right hand side of the screen, not the left. But so it works pretty much on all versions of Windows. So hopefully you'll find this useful, and you'll be able to recover the data off that old laptop. Again, finally, I will shut up soon. Finally, it doesn't work if the drive has been encrypted with BitLocker. You can't bypass that. So if there's DeskLock on there or BitLocker, you've had it. But if it's a Windows password and you've forgotten it, it works. And I've left this bit till the very last. If it's a Microsoft password, it also works. So if you've forgotten your Microsoft password, you've forgotten your local user account password, this method works because you're using the administrator account, which is normally disabled. You enable it, you're using the administrator account to access the files that are on the local machine. Keep it off the internet, and then you'll find that OneDrive won't have a hissy fit about things. But as a general rule, I suppose if you are using OneDrive, then you might get into issues with it not being able to connect and the files being stored in the cloud and not locally. But this is the best you can do without actually knowing the password. So if it was helpful, let me know. If it wasn't, let me know any problems you've got, and I'll try and solve them for you. Liking and subscribing is very much appreciated. This laptop is a bit of an old crusty nightmare, but it's very much appreciated. And as ever, thanks for watching.